Okay, today we're going to practice entering some Salmonella lab reports, and then we will practice entering some sugar toxin producing E. coli lab reports. And before we get started with the Salmonella, I would like to refer to Christy's PowerPoint presentation on slide 4 and slide 5. On slide 4, if you'll notice, they detected 3 different organisms, and on that particular slide, Salmonella was detected, E. coli, EPEC was detected, and the adenovirus. So if you get a report where it shows Salmonella detected on one of the GI panels, that case would need to be reported to DPH, and you would go ahead and begin your investigation for a suspect Salmonella case. On slide 5, you would notice that Campylobacter was detected, and also E. coli, EPEC was detected. So once again, you would go ahead and start your investigation for Campylobacter for that particular GI panel. So I did want to point those out before we begin our Salmonella lab entry. And then we will refer to Christy's PowerPoint presentation again throughout the lab entry, but not until we get to the sugar toxin producing E. coli. So we'll go ahead and we will start with our lab entry up and open investigation. So if you'll follow me up here and click on open investigation, you can go over to the condition and click the down arrow. Once you do, if you will click on select all, that will unselect all of them, and then you can scroll down to the particular organism that you need. So for this particular one, we're going to select Salmonellosis. And if you click OK, that will bring up all of the particular patients that are currently in open investigation, or at least for the training field today. And if you go over and you click on patient, that'll put them all in alphabetical order if that's what you choose to do. So for today, we'll go down here and we'll just click on one particular patient, and we're going to go down here under Susie Q, and we'll click on Salmonellosis. Now, once you're getting ready to enter a lab report, you want to go up to the top of your screen to the far left under Manage Associations. And you'll get a white box that comes up each and every time, and it'll say Message from Web Page. That's okay. Go ahead and click the blue box that says OK. And you'll see that they've already got a morbidity report entered for this particular patient. That's fine. We're going to add a lab report today. So click on the blue box that says Add Lab Report. Now, the first lab report that we're going to enter today is one from Diathorex. Frequently we get lab reports from Diathorex that will be reported as a Salmonella enterica, for example. So this particular reporting facility is one that we will have to search for. So you'll hit the blue box on the left side that says Search. Type in Diathorex. Click Submit. Okay, that one's not there. Or at least I don't see it by typing Diathorex, so we'll try one more time. I thought that that one had been added, maybe not. So if you run across this where you have a particular reporting facility that is not found, you can contact Terry Grimes or Mike Chardon to have that particular facility added. So if you have a hospital in your area, or if you have a reference lab such as Diathorex that needs to be added, that's who you contact. So for this example, we will pick a different lab, and we'll pick a hospital, for example. We can do Hardin Memorial if we need to. Okay, Hardin Memorial Hospital main lab, and you click select. Alright, so once you see that it's loaded in there, you want to go down and click your lab report date. So that's the date that the result has come in and that it was reported. So we'll go ahead and we'll just click today's date. Your specimen source is always important, whether it's urine, blood, stool, sputum, whatever the source is. So we're going to say this particular source was urine. Collected on the 1st. And then you go down to resulted test. Okay, so you can put in here Salmonella result. Now, when you go down to Salmonella organism, you're going to put in Salmonella enterica. That is usually always the type of result that I get from Diathorex lab. Occasionally I'll get a Salmonella enterica from other lab source, but that's usually the only result that I get from Diathorex. So then you would go down and you would add this test result. And once you do, you will see that result. Now, for some reason, if you get this result and you see that you've put it in an error, you can always go up and edit it, or if it's completely wrong, you can delete it if you need to. Now, if you're completely finished, you can hit submit. Now, I want to go ahead and take this opportunity to show you all how to enter a final lab from the state, for example. Because I find that a lot of local health departments, whether it's the nurse, regional epi, or environmentalist, do not know how to enter a final lab report. So if you're getting a final lab report from the state, you don't have to type in the Division of Laboratory Services. There's a quick code that you can use for that. You can put in DLS over here and do a code lookup. And it'll populate. Now, it does take a few minutes, just like you saw there. You can put in lab report date. So we'll say this one came in on the 1st. Specimen source. So let's say this one was a blood. Okay. Collected on the 28th. Resulted test. Alright, now when you get one that's come into the state lab, we hope that it was an isolate that come in. So when you get an isolate that's come into the state lab, it's gone to bacteriology for serotyping. So we want to click Salmonella species serotype. And then down here under the organism, we want to put in that particular serotype. So let's say that you have a Salmonella typhimurium. Now, very important here that you don't click typhi, okay? There's a big difference in Salmonella typhi and Salmonella typhimurium. So if you have Salmonella typhimurium, make sure that you go ahead and get the entire word in there for typhimurium. Down here in the text result, this is where you would put the grouping. So typhimurium's group B. Down here you would put that it is a final result. And then down further where you have the option to track the isolate, yes, you want to track the isolate. And then was an isolate received at the State Public Health Lab? Yes, it was received. And then you put the date it was received. So when you look at your state lab reports, up in the top left, you will have a date and time flagged in. So that's the date that it was flagged in at the state lab. So if this particular lab was collected on the 28th, it might not have been received at the state lab until possibly the 1st. So then you want to put your outreach ID. On your state lab report, that would be your lab medical rec number. So that's going to be an 8-digit lab ID. So for the purposes of this training, we'll just put 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. But once again, that's your lab medical rec number, and that's considered your outreach ID. So if this case was confirmed at the state lab, you would put yes. Was an isolate forwarded to CDC for testing or confirmation? We don't always know that, so I put unknown if I'm putting it in unless I know for sure that it was sent for testing at CDC. And then I add the test result. Okay? Now, what do you do, for example, if you have a serotype that you don't see in the drop-down box? You know, what do you do if it's not typhimurium, enteritidis, Newport? You know, what if it's kind of an odd serotype? So I want to show you how to search for that. So let's go ahead and try to put another one in so that I can show you how to do that. So let's go ahead and look here. Let's put Salmonella species serotype here. And let's look for one. So let's say we have a really odd one. Maybe we have Salmonella bovis formificans. Well, that one happens to be there, so maybe that one's not too odd, but it's kind of odd to say. So let's look for another one. What if we have Salmonella java? Okay, that one's not there. So what you have to do when you have one that's not there is you have to use your search tool, and you type it in like so, click submit, and there it is. Click select, and it'll populate for you. Now you still have to put the particular grouping in, so go ahead and type out the group that's on your DLS lab report, text it in, and then go ahead and put your final status and your tracking just like we did with typhimurium, and add your text or test result just like I did for typhimurium. But since we already have one in there, I'm not going to proceed with that, so we can clear that. Now, if you have a result that comes in as a presumptive salmonella, up here, you can type salmonella result. Oops, it didn't clear that for some reason. Okay, so you would go ahead and put under organism, Salmonella organism, and then under your text result, this is where you would type presumptive Salmonella. So you can actually text in there something that doesn't populate for you, but that would be considered a final report if that's what your DLS report says. And then you go ahead and put in there any other comments that you might have on your report if it says referred to CDC or any other information that you need to put in there. Okay, so we're done with this particular example, so we'll go ahead and hit submit. Now, if you notice, it shows messages in red, and that's because I didn't go ahead and add my test result. So anytime you don't follow through with something on your entry, it will give you those messages. That's okay. You can go back, add your test result, and it's still showing me a red message. And that's because this particular field is empty. So we have to go back and add something here. So if you put Salmonella organism in, that will be complete. Now, both those fields are complete and it should be accepted. Okay, so once that's been submitted, you will see the information that we entered here. So the first one that we entered was a Salmonella typhimurium. Then we entered a presumptive Salmonella. So they're both in there, but once you've completed that, you still have to hit submit up in the far right corner, which is your middle button. Alright, that is all the information that we're going to add for Salmonella, because most of our training that I want to do today is going to revolve around Shiga toxin producing E. coli, because that seems to be the most difficult test entry for the diseases that I cover. So we're going to go ahead and pause and get started on the Shiga toxin producing E. coli.